Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS. Rachelle, folks, we're on Fitness Friday. It is always the best day of the week. Gotta love it. Folks, in this final episode of 2022, this year's theme has been a panoramic view in 22. On the other side of the holiday hiatus break, the theme will be there's more to see in 23. Going to continue this series on decisions and other topics as we move throughout 2023. And one of those topics, just to give you a preliminary heads up, will be HR topics. Giving you a year, a reprieve and break, but we're coming back to HR along with some other exciting topics in 23. Cannot wait, folks. But wanted to kick this episode off with something that should inspire and challenge and certainly remind you that you have always been essential. I mean, just on a human basic level, do you believe that you're essential? Do you believe, certainly from a leadership perspective, do you believe that your own fitness is essential? Do you believe that the fitness industry is essential and what you have to offer is essential? Because quite frankly, if you don't believe that, you know, there's an old saying, you can't give away what you don't have. And so it is so important. And just in case you're wondering, yes, I purchased this from Dollar Tree. I told you these types of things, you know, again, this episode nor any other episode, I'm not here to promote corporations, businesses, companies, stores, anything else, any entities that I mention in this episode, of course, or for educational purposes only, to highlight as examples to further my points. But this right here, folks, I saw this and this was, yes, we have to realize this on a basic human level. We are essential. What we have to offer is essential. Who we are is essential. We are needed. We are important. What we have to offer is needed and important. Our own fitness needs to be important and essential. It is so important that we get this. Because quite frankly, there's a whole lot of people around the world where this particular point right here, you could ask a yes or no question, and there'll be a whole lot of no's. So I just challenge us as we end this year out, step on into 2023, that we recognize we are essential. What we do is essential. What we have to offer is essential. Our own fitness is essential. Fitness industry is essential. So important. So important, folks. And so last week, I shared with you some thoughts on the evolution of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS. We'll share some more story times in 2023, certainly in the continuation of this decision series. But certainly one point, and you hear me talk, and I've highlighted this a number of times, certainly over the years, where what is my goal with Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS? To tell the truth and to help people. And that tell the truth piece, you know, I talked to you earlier on in this decision series about the helping people piece and what that looks like, and how someone gave me some clarity around that in terms of how they perceive my ability to help people. So shared that in an earlier episode of this series. But that telling the truth part, to me, is extremely important. And what I mean by that, yes, on a surface level, absolutely, telling the truth. That's why I always cite my sources, provide you, with the information so you can search and find it yourself, do further research or anything like that. If you want to refer and reference anything later, yes, on a speaking level, that is absolutely essential to be able to do that. But when I talk about telling the truth and my commitment to doing that, and certainly what I mean by that on an even deeper level, so the surface level and then on an absolute deeper level, is telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I've shared with you a number of times, you have to understand my history of being a Southern belle, syrupy sweet Southern belle, people pleaser, and I was an absolute master of telling people what they wanted to hear. And I was just second to none at doing that. And quite frankly, I mean, if that's one of the things, when I look back on my life, that's one of the things I could have done differently, that would be it. That would be one of the things that I would do differently. But I recognize that, I had to work on, different aspects of myself, such as my confidence. And I'm always talking about confidence and inner security to be able to do that. Because that's I mean, if you lack confidence and you're insecure and you're always thinking about, the newest addition to, what Rachelle, some of my themes of Fitness Friday Positives, when I have things laminated, it's going to be a permanent part of my discussions here. These questions here, I used to live here. I mean, I had a mansion here with these three. Because what are people going to say? How's it going to look? Yada, yada, yada. And so, I made a decision back in 2015, and actually I still have the card here. And so, and I want to give always, I'm always big, certainly here on Fitness Friday Positives, but in life in general, I'm big on honoring people, particularly people that have helped me, whether, just words of inspiration or encouragement or something, more formal like a book or presentation or conversation or whatever the lecture, whatever the case may be. Alex Sheen, who was the founder of Because I Said I Would. He founded his own movement. He's based in the greater Cleveland, Ohio area. So I got an email one day back in 2015, and it was about this movement, Because I Said I Would. And so it was, put your address in, and we'll send you some of these Because I Said I Would cards. And you can, you can write whatever you want on there in terms of, Because I Said I Would. And it is so funny, and I have this card, and it actually, I keep it on my living room table. And just as a constant reminder, and how, in 2015, this commitment to telling people what they need to hear, and particularly in a leadership role, because it is so easy for us for various reasons. But the heart of that is just insecurity. What are they going to say? How's it going to look? What if I hurt their feelings? Now, I will be the first one to tell you, feelings are important. So when you see that list, the 3 questions, what about their feelings? And I do not advocate just steamrolling over people and being inconsiderate and rude and mean, vile. No, absolutely not. I've learned I can be positive and tell people the truth in a balanced way. I can certainly be, encouraging. I can certainly be polite. But I just recognize that the world is in great need of people that are not afraid to tell the truth, particularly within the framework of helping people. It is so important. So that's what I mean by that. Now, I've done just on my own self-study from a leadership perspective. When I think about this concept of telling people the truth and not just, nodding, telling people what they want to hear, being an echo chamber, yada, yada, yada. When I think back on my own leadership studies here over the last few years, when I think about this concept of telling the truth, and when I look back at, it's one thing, and I've done that, certainly a lot of that historically, leadership gone right. What are best practices? What are things that people did right? But also, I spent a lot of time evaluating leadership gone wrong. And one of the common and various aspects, various sectors of life, business, community, politics, everything. So one of the key attributes in those situations, leadership gone wrong, is that individuals not having people around that were willing to challenge the status quo and tell people the truth. Because, and I get it, like I said, we've all been there, where we're just telling somebody, particularly if it's an authoritative type figure, telling people what they want to hear. And so I'm just extremely passionate about this point, because I recognize that leadership and massive societal failures, and we talk about business failures, we talk about failures in the church and religion, and politics, whatever. I mean, there's no sector of society that is not negatively impeded by this concept. I mean, we can look back in the history of Jim Jones and Jonestown. All right, had an inner circle of people that went along with that charade for years. An echo chamber, Enron, WorldCom. I mean, we can discuss innumerable examples. the founder of the Ponzi scheme. You know, there's always this inner circle. And this happens on a local level. This happens just across the world. This is just a very important dynamic that I am just extremely passionate. And I just told myself, you know what, Rachelle, you want to be on the right side. You want to be able to tell the people, to tell people the truth. It may not always be pretty. It may not always be what people want to hear, but tell people the truth. And that's why when you hear me talk about my two motives are to tell the people, tell the truth, and to help people. That tell the truth piece is hard. Very, very hard. I mean, it's come much easier over the years, but I had to grow. That had to be a lot of professional and personal growth on my end. So important, so important. And so that's why, you know, week after week, when I sit here before you and I talk about what my motives, and I talked about the motives last week. Because if my motives were not telling the truth and help people, if I had other motives like trying to impress you, trying to feel important, trying to become popular, you know, all of this and that, it would be very different. Very, very different. But I had some very specific goals and objectives, and I stick to those. And that's why I absolutely love what I do. You know, certainly on Fitness Friday Positives, but outside, because it is so important. But it is so, I mean, but it hasn't been an easy journey. Like I told you, that was 2015 when I said, you know what? I've got to stop telling people what they want to hear. I was a master at that, but that's not beneficial. That is not beneficial. So had to point that out, folks. And so we think about, I want to highlight a couple of articles here as we move along in this episode. Think about fitness being essential, the fitness industry being essential, and our roles, whatever the case may be, inside and outside of fitness, being essential. I want to, in the power of decisions, to be essential. It is so important. We've got to recognize the power of our decisions, the power to act or not act. Make decisions, tough decisions. We're going to talk more about that next year. The tough decisions, misguided decisions, emotional decisions. I've got some story times for all of those. And so we're going to talk more about that next year. I just wanted to we're going to get our feet wet here these last few weeks of these Fitness Friday episodes of 2022. But I want to highlight an article that appeared in Club Industry. And so it's attributed to Club Industry staff, November 28, 2022. The title of this article is Planned Mass Shooting at Gym Thwarted, Police Say. And so the article goes on to state, a former professional boxer, Isaiah Augustana, was arrested on November 23rd after he put money down on an AK-47 and threatened to commit a mass shooting at a gym in Miami, according to the Miami Police Department. Augustana was charged with 1 count of threatening to kill and 2 counts of issuing written threats to commit a mass shooting. The gym he allegedly threatened was Boxer, which is B-O-X-R, gym in Miami, where he had been a member for about 4 months. However, a screenshot of one of his Instagram posts captured by a Miami TV station prior to it apparently being removed also names boxing gyms KO Zone, CKO Kickboxing, Sobe Kick, which is SOBEKICK, one word, and Fitbox, one word, method. His membership at Boxer was revoked on November 11th after an argument with a boxing coach who asked him to leave a space where a class was starting. Augustana allegedly challenged the coach to fight, but the coach declined. Something was off. Mateo Atala, the owner of Boxer, told CNN. He was just acting a little funny and started acting aggressive. After his membership was revoked and he returned with police to get his belongings, he allegedly posted threats on his Instagram page. Those threats were sent to the Violent Crimes Unit of the Miami Police Department. That unit began tracking his Instagram page, which included images of the Parkland school shooter, as well as serial killers Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy. It also includes a video of him at a pawn shop asking to buy an AK-47. On November 22nd, Augustama put a deposit on an AK-47, but he was unable to take the gun with him because he did not have a concealed weapons permit. Miami detective Ludwig Refuge told a Miami-Dade judge, according to an article in the Tampa Bay Times, if not for him not having a concealed weapons permit, I believe he would have purchased the firearm and could have carried out his threats, Refuge said. Miami Police Chief Manny Morales posted about the arrest on his Twitter page saying, quote, incredibly proud of our Miami PD team for their quick response and swift action that was taken regarding threats made about a mass shooting. We take these kinds of threats seriously and will pursue the offender to all lengths to keep Miami safe. Augustama competed in the 2008 Olympics for Haiti as a light heavyweight boxer before turning professional. The charging document lists him as a personal trainer. He is being held on a $3 million bond and house arrest if he is able to post bond. Now, these type of episodes, I did a couple of different episodes on these types of scenarios, negative scenarios that happen in facilities of all types. Wide ranges of negative behavior, criminal behavior, it's at all types of acts. And so historically, prior to 2022, I didn't cover, just maybe a couple of times I covered them, but this is something from time, once every blue moon, I'm going to drop in an episode covering these type of topics because it is so important just to recognize that these types of things do happen in facilities, all studios, all types, community, commercial, whatever the case may be. All right, so it is so important that folks be vigilant. And this is a case where, a potentially negative situation was thwarted based on the power of decisions. Go back to the power of decision to act or not act. And so wanted to highlight that, just to recognize and just to challenge you one final time. Do you have a plan? There's, again, myriad different things that can go wrong, but it's just from a fundamental standpoint of having something goes wrong. These are our steps. These are our communication steps. This is the protocol. These are our policies and procedures. These are our policies and procedures. It's so important. And so before I move on to the second article, I wanted to just come back to, these three questions. And so that was an example of a negative situation with a membership having been revoked, by the suspect, by the alleged, individual perpetrator of this crime. And so, particularly this third question, what about their feelings? You're talking about a membership situation where someone is just causing problems, being disruptive, whatever the case may be. Again, there's just a plethora of different things that a member can do wrong from a membership perspective in terms of keeping them on the membership roster or removing them. And just to recognize, that person, it's easy. Again, insecurity will convince you here it will try to convince and persuade you against making the tough decisions. Like, okay, this particular person is a safety or security hazard. Okay, I highlighted some of that in the article. Again, this person's membership was revoked on November 11th. Okay, there were already some challenges there. So it's so important to be able to act with confidence, to just say, okay, this is something we have to do something about. Okay, so we have to do something, an individual, just making up some hypotheticals here off the top of my head. A member comes in and they're constantly berating and belittle someone at the front desk, whatever the case may be. There's no way to certainly encapsulate all of the different things that someone can do wrong, but it's just important to recognize the importance of making decisions, even tough decisions, especially tough decisions when they may need to be made. That is essential. That is essential. The power of decisions, the power to act is essential. is so essential. So essential, folks. And so the next article that I want to highlight before I move on to close this episode out here is a bit of good news. And this article appeared in Club Industry November 22nd, 2022, attributed to Pamela Kufal, Content Director. The title of this article is, "Are Gyms Again a Hit with Landlords?" And the article goes on to state, landlords are again courting health clubs and studios, according to a November 8th article by the New York Times. A focus on wellness and communal experiences after the isolation and illnesses experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic are driving people back to gyms. And that means foot traffic for landlords who are desperate to get people back to their retail spaces, suffering due to the increase in online shopping. The types of gyms doing the best are high volume, low price clubs, and boutique studios, according to the article. Fitness centers occupied 2 million square feet of retail space at the end of 2021, and that increased by more than 4.5 million square feet in the first 3 months of 2022. Brandon Eisner, head of retail research for the Americas and real estate services for CBRE, told the Times. In the past, some landlords may have hesitated to rent space to gyms that might have been noisy and needed expensive renovations, but now as more corporate space is vacated due to more work from home employees, landlords are looking more favorably at gyms. Parham Javeri, Chief Property Development Officer at Lifetime, told the Times, years ago, 90% of club pipeline was us calling landlords and developers. Now at least 50% of work is from inbound interest. And then it finally says, read the full article by going here, and there's a clickable link. So folks, once again, landlords, developers are recognizing brick and mortar fitness facilities are essential. Are essential. Had to highlight that point, folks. And so as I close this episode out, so we're heading here into the holidays, so I'm going to close this episode out with an unusual demonstration of generosity. Here on Fitness Friday, Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. So, my uncle, and they call themselves the Senior Trio. My mother, father, and Uncle James in Shreveport, Louisiana. So last time I was in Shreveport. So my uncle is 74. And so last time I was in Shreveport, helped my uncle upgrade his Medicare Advantage plan. Once again, before I proceed, this is not a promotion. Medicare Advantage plans, any particular plan in particular, including the company in which I'm about to highlight. I'm doing this in the context of this story to provide full context. All right, so Uncle Jay upgraded his insurance plan. And so he had been having some challenges and just needed some additional benefits. And so I was able to work with him during this process. And I was only able to do that. You know, I'm big on in the inside and outside of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS, but I'm very big on honoring people, recognizing people. And I certainly reflected and remembered my very first sales manager when I was in pharmaceutical sales back in the day, the late Gina D. Moyer. And she had us, from a training perspective, she used to train us on healthcare plans, insurance plans, and being able to differentiate between one versus the other, and this type and that type, and what's covered and what isn't. And I remember looking back and thinking, like, why do we have to go through all of this? Why is this necessary? Can't we just learn about our own individual medications and products that we're going to be promoting? And in hindsight, again, years later, I recognized how essential that training was, because I was able to sit down, with my Uncle Jay when I was there visiting and say, okay, let's look at what's available. Let's look at where you are. Let's look at where you want to be. And let's look at what's available in terms of getting you where you need to be. And so without that extensive training years ago by Gina, you know, that may have been certainly a tougher challenge. I mean, it's much easier for me to do that because of that training. And certainly I honor her and her memory and her legacy, and how I was able to utilize that information, you know, to help my uncle. Because I mean, there's so many different plans, particularly Medicare Advantage plans. And so I helped him upgrade. And so I'm an additional person, a designate, whatever you want to call it, on his account. And so because it's the information that they get can be very complicated and tough to understand, and it's a lot of information. My uncle needs help, like many do, with just ciphering through just the sometimes reams and hordes of information that you may get. He's not very technologically savvy, so anyway, I help him with a lot of different things. Happy to do it. And so with this plan, you know, they provided the booklet and the salesperson's agent, the sales guy's agent, and I was with him at that meeting when he upgraded the plan. And so I'm just saying all of that to say one of the benefits, part of his plan is, and then this is the unusual generosity I'm about to demonstrate, silver sneakers. Silver sneakers. Now, I've heard anecdotally a number of people talk about that, but I just wanted to conclude this episode by highlighting silver sneakers. Again, just not promoting silver sneakers, not telling you one way or another, but I'm just want to highlight something here that is very important. So we talk about, you know, I couldn't close 2022 out without highlighting the SWOT analysis. So what we have here: internal, strengths, weaknesses; external, opportunities and threats. And so when we think about silver sneakers, or not, but what I really want to point out here, when we think about the demographic shifts, particularly of the population that is aging, all right, we see, you know, the baby boomers, there's several different ways they are described demographically and categorically. When we think about how high this number is and continues to get literally day by day, certainly year by year, explosive growth within the senior segment. All right, very, very important group anyway. But certainly from a fitness perspective, what I'm seeing, what I certainly have seen, and I've learned here during my research and working with him on his plan upgrade, is that, you know, many plans are beginning to recognize, certainly many have always, you know, recognized, but many are definitely, you see a ramp up in the number of entities, plans, and companies that are offering fitness benefits. You know, when I was in the corporate world, you know, my companies offered, you join a gym, we pay your membership, we reimburse you monthly, whatever the case may be. So that's been going on for a while, certainly in your larger, major corporations, but even smaller companies too. Just recognizing that fitness is essential. Fitness is essential. And there's so many different benefits that have been, you know, it's been studied a lot. And so what we have here is senior plans that are recognizing, hey, if we were to tie this benefit and include this benefit, you know, it could really make a difference in terms of our members and their health and their wellness, and certainly from a cost perspective, from the insurer's perspective. So I always like to kind of be balanced in what I'm discussing, what I'm presenting. So from both sides. So benefits from the potential member, if you know, of a healthcare facility or health club, the insurance plan's member, as well as the insurance company or plan themselves. They're, you know, kind of win-win situation is what I'm getting at here. And so I received an email because I'm a designate on his account. I get the emails, you know, from his plan, Humana in this case, but so an email came from Silver Sneakers. And so this was November 5th, 2022, 6:45, and the title is Activate Your Membership Today. And so I'm just going to read it here. And so it says, activate Silver Sneakers and see where it takes you. It's part of your health plan for no additional cost. Wondering if Silver Sneakers is right for you? It won't cost you anything to find out because Silver Sneakers is already included in your health plan. with instant access to social opportunities and exercise programs for all skill levels offered online and at locations near you and nationwide. Why not give it a try? Today is a great day to join millions of adults who are living happier, healthier, more connected lives. Click below to get going. Of course, there's a clickable link there, get started in the dark blue. And then after that, it gives them the steps. It's easy to create your Silver Sneakers account. First, go to silversneakers.com/start here. Second, get your ID number. Third, choose a participating location. Fourth, set your date and start working out. And finally, enjoy your new active lifestyle. So that's the email that came from Silver Sneakers. And so I said, hey Jay, any chance you're interested? This is a free benefit of your membership, of your health plan. And I was met with a resounding no. And like I told you last week, I just can't be that rah, you can do it, individual, just okay. His answer was no, fine, no problem. I respect your wishes, but I certainly highlighted to him that this was a benefit that was available. And so, and I should provide some context. I've highlighted this a while back, but my Uncle Jay is currently battling and overcoming stage 4 colon cancer. He's had some ups and downs this year, but his labs are looking good. His chemos, he's now getting more spaced out between the cycles. So he's doing extremely well. He lost a lot of weight initially. He's gaining weight again. And so, to be fair to him, he's battling stage 4 colon cancer. But also, Uncle Jay, he's lived in a few different places, but he lived for a very long time in Chicago. So Uncle Jay then, and even now, loves public transportation and walking. Like he owns no vehicle, he walks to where he needs to go, or he takes public transportation. So he is, from a walking standpoint, he walks a lot. So he does get his walking and his exercise in vis-a-vis that way. But in terms of joining a formal facility, club, or studio, he was not interested. He was not interested, folks. So what I want to do here, finally, on this episode, so I clicked on that get started, that blue box in that email I just read to you. And so it took me to, and I wanted to see what was available based on his zip code. Just was curious to see if he would have decided to go forward, which he's not, which is why I'm actually highlighting this much, in this particular episode. I'm going into very deep detail because he's not interested. So I don't have to say, well, he chose this one, or he didn't want whatever. He chose none of them. But just for your enlightenment and understanding the value of this program, particularly for contract-based memberships or hybrid type of memberships where there may be an initial contract and then they roll off to month, or just contract period, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. A program like this where the cost is being covered for them from a sales perspective can be certainly something that is far more easily communicated in terms of the benefit of joining one facility or the other, to think, well, this isn't going to cost you anything. It's free. So would you sign this contract for this particular membership? This food for thought. So I clicked on that. It brought me to tools.silversneakers.com. And then I clicked on the menu, just giving you the steps in case you want to replicate it. Fitness locations. I clicked on fitness locations. Then I entered his zip code, 71104. I did not select any filters. And it brought back the live online classes that you could click on, as well as brick and mortar results. And those results are Anytime Fitness Shreveport, right, 739 Shreveport Barksdale Highway, Planet Fitness Shreveport, 5711 Uri Drive. Next, Anytime Fitness Shreveport, 855 Piermont Road, Suite 142. Next, Fit Nation, Bossier City, 1701 Old Minden Road, Suite, it shows 14A. And finally, Planet Fitness Bossier City, 801 Benton Road. All right, so this is what it showed. Again, no filters. It gives a map. You click on that, there's a map that shows the clubs and where they are in terms of where that particular zip code, based on where that zip code is, you can kind of see where the clubs are, on the map, where they designate that. And so this particular group, there's been a lot of studies, a lot of research done that shows, commitment to fitness, wellness, health, healthy diet is essential, particularly for this particular age group. All age groups, all the way from kids all the way to seniors. Very, very important group. But this is just an example of an opportunity that some entities are taking advantage of. And I just wanted to give you a real life example. Again, I'm usually generous for these types of my Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS, but this is a final Christmas gift. You do what you want. Yes, no. It's up to you. You know your business. You know where you are. You know what you need to do. And so, folks, that is all I have for you today. This has been a great year. Again, a panoramic view in 2022. I have covered a lot. Typically things that I wouldn't cover. Topics ranging from, like in today's episode, how to avoid becoming the next Jim Jones. By having people that are willing to challenge you and tell you the truth and tell you when you were wrong, to the Brittany Dawn Davis legal complaint that the Texas State Attorney General filed against her fitness professional, Brittany Dawn Davis. She's a fitness professional, and just I covered read that whole complaint on one particular episode. There's just been a lot covered. Again, some of the challenges and crimes and negative situations that had transpired within facilities, leadership, marketing. There's been so many different topics that I've covered. And with next year's theme being there's more to see in 23, we're going to continue to cover certain topics, such as another topic that I didn't just mention was, again, getting roped into multi-level marketing schemes and recognizing, particularly within the fitness industry, particularly within the private sector of the fitness industry in terms of bricks and mortar facilities and studios, the potential vulnerability that lies there. Again, when a company or distributor approaches someone and says, hey, I know you're struggling. I know a lot of this happened in 2020 and 2021, folks, when the fitness industry, when clubs were closed, and certainly once they reopened, they literally millions, if you were to tabulate and calculate all of the different independent distributors from the health, fitness, and wellness-oriented multi-level marketing companies, millions of individuals, millions of them going out, pitching their particular products, to individuals who were vulnerable because the gyms were closed, facilities were closed. And then once they reopened, the challenge there, you have to recognize, years ago, when Herbalife, had that marketing message saying, lose weight now, ask me how. All right, you gotta realize how, from a competitive analysis standpoint, how that message for someone who may be struggling, may have struggled for 20 years with weight loss, may have tried every gym in the town, and when someone approaches them and they hear that, how compelling of a message that can be. So we're going to talk more about that in the facilities themselves. They are there, they abound. Where you walk into some of these clubs, particularly on the private, with respect to that particular sector, but privately owned facilities, where you walk in there and they've got a section that's kind of just specifically for their multi-level marketing company. So, and instead of just helping an individual, prospective member kind of come in and work on your fitness and achieve your goals, there can also be the element of, well, if you join my team, and you can also do this, and you can also become rich. You can also, but recognizing the vulnerability, sort of from a leadership perspective, when an entity is struggling, and saying, okay, members, I'm not getting enough members. What else can I do? What else can I try? And a lot of that happened, and a lot of that continues to happen. And so I'm going to continue to point that out from time to time, that particular sector, because yes, they are part of this whole ecosystem. I haven't historically, and I started to do that in late 2021 and 2022, but I think that is very important that folks recognize, the failure rate of that particular sector. And then within the fitness industry, where there's just so much natural, just organic failure anyway, with all due respect, to add that element in, it can be a very big challenge and risk for people that are willing to do that. So I've covered a lot this year. I'm but I continue to cover the important topics in 2023 because at the end of the day, I want you to be successful. Let's all recognize 2022 and beyond how essential we are, how essential fitness is, how essential, yes, our own fitness is. And let's just commit to be better in 2023 than we were in 2022. Let's keep growing, let's keep evolving, because that's truly what matters at the end of the day, folks. So I cannot wait to see you on the other side of holiday break. But until then, always remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness, leadership, success, and yes, decisions. Make it a great day.